Hey guys, so we're just going to take a quick look at this ABBA wheel balancing set that's just arrived. We've obviously got the main part of the frame. It's already welded, there's no bolt-on nonsense with this. It comes with this, if I can get it on the camera, there's a steel shaft and the two cone arrangements. Obviously suitable for multiple wheel bearing diameters. Comes with 3 sets of weights, 4 precision bearings, some nuts, bolts and washers, and an Allen key. You're obviously going to need a spanner with the Allen key obviously not included. And yeah, instructions I think are in there. And the thing that was stopping the other shop doing the rear wheel balancing was the fact that their single side arm adapter machine was not working, and this is what's been ordered as well, and that should solve the problem. I think this will do up to 60mm holes in the wheels without any problems. So we're going to get this assembled and have a closer look and then get balancing these wheels, and we'll probably check the balancing of the front wheels that the shop already did. Right, so you can see the parts included there. We've got the 4 bearings, 4 nylock nuts, hex bolts and washers, the Allen key supplied, but you'll also need a 17mm spanner. So whilst I wasn't going to do this, I thought I might as well just film the assembly. The bearings will go on the outside, and there is a washer either side, like so. Right, just checking this is all in frame. We're just going to lift that up a bit. There we go. I have to say the guy that I spoke to at ABBA was excellent, really helpful, really interested, was quite happy to arrange a next day, Saturday, before 12 delivery, which was excellent. I really needed to get these tyres balanced and back on the bike today, ready for tomorrow. So grateful for that sort of service. You don't get that much these days. Although I'll put links to their website, which has got some really nice gear on there. I'll put the link down in the description. I'll get my hand out of the way so you can see what's going on, but it's not working. I'll just do this cack-handed for you. Should have been doing this outside and the same table I did the wheels on yesterday, but weather's not so good today. And that is that. So we're just going to get this out. probably can't see, but these bearings are spinning perfectly freely. So yeah, that is that. Very slight difference in the single sidearm adapter. You are obviously able to lock these plastic cones into place, but there is no provision to do that on the standard cones. So what I'm going to do there is end that clip, because that is all now assembled, and we'll go and get one of the wheels. I might tag all these clips together actually, but yeah, that's it. Nice and simple. Great service from the guy at the ABBA website, and yeah, thanks very much. Right, so back again. We are going to get this wheel up on here. Now ideally, if this has been balanced correctly, this wheel should not have a heavy point on it. So if I put the valve to the top, let this go, it shouldn't move. So I think we can prove there that a crap job has been done on balancing this. The valve at the moment is in this position. I don't know whether you're going to be able to see. Yeah, perhaps should have done this from the other side. Let me see if I can spin this wheel around a little bit without scratching the sleeve up. Yeah, let's do it this way. So you can see where the valve position is. Bloody flowers in the way. Right, so again, if we repeat that, let's put that at the top. Shouldn't move obviously, but it has, so that's not balanced correctly. It's pretty disappointing then for an electronic machine. That's falling to the same point every time. They've got the weight pretty much in the right place, but just not enough of it. So let's spin this right to the bottom. Now I think we are going to have to add just a little bit more weight there. This is the heaviest section, obviously at the bottom. You can see that wants to spin back. So we got some weights with the kit, 3 packs, and they also threw in a couple of extra, or another 3 for me, as I said I would be doing a review on YouTube. So yeah, we've got 3 sets of weights, all individually labelled. Just need to cut through these. We've got 5 grams, 2.5, and that repeats all the way across. Black wasn't available, unfortunately, but as you can see from this one, actually you probably can't see if I bring the weight down. They've used silver anyway at the shop, so not really an issue. So I think what we're going to do is go and get some sellotape and some cutters, so I can just cut off a couple of these, and we will just temporarily stick them in place and see if we can get this correctly balanced, because you can see there is definitely a heavy spot still on this this wheel. Okay, so we'll end that one there and go and get some more bits, and back in a minute. Right, back again. So we've just chopped up these little weights, and I've just used a bit of parcel tape just to temporarily stick the weight on, which you can see there. I've added another 5 grams, but we've got the same problem. It is still it was still falling down. It's going the other way now, so it's perhaps a little bit, might stop. So it's still tending to go back that way, so maybe it's time to add the little 2.5 gram one. Still got a tendency to go, so we'll chuck another 5 gram one on there. So we've actually added 10 grams, which is, 10 grams, sorry, 5 grams more than they put on there. It had 5, it's now got 15, but the I think that's probably as close as I'm going to get it, but it's very much different to the electronic machine, which is a bit odd. It's just tending to go again there. Cool, just the tiny amount there. So I think we're going to go with that. Well, I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty much as close as I'm going to get it. So yeah, we're just going to peel these off and mount those. You can probably see in cutting these, the weight varies very slightly, just because of the way they cut. So we're going to pop this backing material off. Find the weight, which is there. See if we can get that right next to it. Now, I've seen YouTube clips where they then put some hideous tape over the top of these to stop them coming off, but I kind of think they've missed the point of where the force on these weights is going. As soon as this wheel is spinning, they're being forced into the alloy, so I don't really see the point in cock. Just drop that on the floor. And of course adhesive down, no problems there. Just don't see the point of covering these with tape. Yeah, so I think we're we're done there. I guess it's a shame they haven't used the same arrangement on here as this one, where you can just lock these spindles in place. Anyway, I think that's good to go. Cool, you could argue for a little bit more just there. That stopped. Yeah, I'm going for that. So yeah, that's the front wheel rebalanced, and now we're going to have a bash with the rear wheel. Right, so we've just got this rear wheel on there now. I've just put one cone in. I think it did it this side actually. Just nipped up the grub screw. Just bear in mind the thread. These are plastic, I'm pretty certain. Yeah, so these are plastic, these cones, so just don't be over tightening the grub screw. I've then put the other cone in from the other side, and whilst pressing it, holding the shaft and pressing it in with my finger, I've just literally nipped up the grub screw, and the wheel has been put in. You can see the original weights on here, and I'm going to have to get a hairdryer, I think, and remove those. Yeah, so you can see the heaviest spot is exactly where the tube valve is, but I'm going to remove these weights. There's no point starting off with weights on there. That will be affecting it. So I think the easiest way to get these off is with some a bit of hot air from the hairdryer and soften the glue up, and they should pop off hopefully. But yeah, okay, so back in a moment. Let's see if they'll pop off now. Oh, nearly. There we go, so that's those off, and we had, well, 15 grams on there. In fact, what I'm going to do, if there's just enough sticky on these, I'll see where the lowest point is and just chuck 15 grams back on. No, you have to use the tape. Okay, can't find the end of the tape with gloves on. It's there somewhere. There we go. God damn. So let's just pop that 15 grams on there again. Let's see where that gets us. You can see from that that whole strip is a bit too much, so we will snip off 2.5 from either end. Well, I'll do it one end first. Just let this settle again. I should have marked the highest point. That's pretty much in line with the shaft and the stand. So we'll just go up there again. That's not bad, is it? I think that's pretty damn close. Now I've got a question. Why were the original weights on the edge? If this is where the centre of the wheel is, okay, the centre of the wheel is, trying to look at the tyre and work out the centre. Yeah, why would you not put the weights right in here? Why would they be on the outside? Makes sense to me to keep that as close to the centre point as possible. Right, back in a moment. Alright, back again. Well, I think that's pretty much as good as I'm going to get it. A little bit too much perhaps. Let's just swing that to the 3 o'clock position. Or just maybe a tiny little bit of trimming of those weights to be done. But then has that stopped? No, it's still going. Let's just bring it up to top again. I'm just literally going to trim, whether to take that 2.5 off or not. Wasn't much, was it? Maybe if we just trim a little bit of the corner off like that. And I wonder what will happen if we do put it towards the hub. Yeah, well, I think just taking that tiny little corner off has solved that problem. So I think we're just going to try and think of a way of just marking that position. Perhaps a bit of tape. Just don't want to lose that, that position. I'm going to take the weights off to remove the adhesive. Put that edge in line with that middle 2.5. Move just making sure that's bent into the right curve. And we're just going to take this off, line that up with the center again. should be that. So the cost of the stand plus the single sidearm adapter was £138.90, but I opted for the 22 quid next day Saturday delivery. I really needed to get these wheels back on the bike today, so normally postage is obviously less than that, but nice to have a company that will arrange a Saturday next day delivery. Included a few extra weight strips, so we'll do the other wheels as well. So yeah, excellent. That is a lot easier than I thought, and I can balance the tyres now whenever I like and not have to rely on anybody else, especially as the electronic machine didn't seem to do a very good job. 10 grams extra on that front wheel, more than the machine put on there. Just wondering if we could have nicked a tiny little bit more off of there. Yeah, I think that's close enough. I'm pretty pleased with that, so we'll proof will be in the riding, I guess, so catch you later. Yeah, close enough. Hey guys, right, so there wasn't really much point in filming me putting this rear wheel back in. It's pretty straightforward, it's not rocket science, this one. A couple of points I wanted to mention really. When the wheel's out, you just need the very, very lightest coating of grease, just the tiniest little smear on the stub and the nut, etc., and the cone, that's what I meant, just so it all can be torqued up quite nicely. It really is just a matter of pushing the wheel back in place. You know, obviously with the exhaust off it will go in, just rotating it slightly to get it over the 4 mounting posts and slide it into place. You've then got the cone, the shim, then the nut. Now you're going to find that most of your standard mechanics torque wrenches are not going to go high enough. You're going to have to invest probably in a torque wrench especially for this purpose. The torque wrench setting for the rear wheel retaining nut is 230 Newton meters, and there's a tolerance of plus or minus 5%. The only issue is if you do not get it right, the holes, there's 4 holes in this, 2 here, 2 the other side, they will not line up. You've got to get one of these holes lined up, and if the torque setting is incorrect, none of them will line up, and that is just to allow this safety ring to go on. There's a longer piece that goes down here and just protrudes through the other side. Now in theory this is probably safe enough, because you've got to pull this part out before you can prise the spring away and lift the whole thing off, but I would suggest using a very, very small cable tie and just putting it around this one and this one. There's absolutely no way that this spring can be removed or come loose whilst that cable tie is in place. So that's pretty much it for the rear wheel. We are now just going to go on to the front wheel, which is very much more involved than the rear. But yeah, at least that rear wheel is now back safe, secure with new rubber. Hey guys, right, all done. Not gonna. I didn't film it. It's too involved. You know, the film would be going on for absolutely ages. But I thought we'd just run through how it's done. First thing you need to do is grease the spindle very lightly, and I've then lifted the wheel up high. Obviously it's quite a bit off the ground here with the stand, so lift the wheel up with one hand and slide the shaft through, and as far as it starts to poke out here, then insert the spacer and line it up with this side and slide it through, and that's gone in. You can only go in so far. It's just inside of the outer edge, just as it was when before it came out. So what you've got to do then is lock up these pinch bolts. Just do one at a time, a little bit on each, and alternate until they're nice and tight. And then you can put the washer, shim, whatever you want to call it, in, and the nut, and torque that up. And the where are we? The front wheel nut needs to be at 63 newtons plus or minus 5%. So that was done with the standard mechanics torque wrench. No issues with the special one for the front nut. At that point I have put the other pinch bolts in and just done those up loosely. Then onto the calipers. Do wrap cloth around the caliper, otherwise you will hit the wheels and you will scratch them. Just a bit of cloth, especially over these union points, they're sticking out quite a long way, and then just mount those over the disc and loosely do them up with the bolts. As you know, I've changed these for titanium. These are locking ones, and I probably will lock them, use lock wire at some point. So just finger tight on that side, and then repeat the same on the other side. Just cover the caliper with cloth, put it over the disc, and the same with the bolts, finger tight at this stage. Okay, so the next thing I did was to loosen these two screws. So the 4 pinch bolts on the front axle are loose. The caliper bolts are finger tight, and at that stage you need to lower the bike down off of the stand, lower it down off of the rear stand, sit on the bike and pump the front suspension up and down a number of times. And in theory what that allows the bike to do is correct any slight twisting of the forks as they line themselves up to the spindle and the wheel and everything. With that done, you can then nip up these pinch bolts on either side. Torque wrench settings, I can't remember off the top of my head. It's quite hard to torque up the other side with a wrench because there's little clearance here, unless you fancy removing the ABS sensor. I did it with an Allen key, but there are torque wrench settings available. So once that is all tightened up nicely on both sides, the next thing to do is make sure these are torqued up correctly. However, you need to apply the brakes and keep the brakes firmly applied. If you've got somebody to help you, just get them onto the brake lever and then you can torque up these bolts on each side. I've got nobody here, so I used a cable tie, just applied the brakes and put a cable tie around the grip and the lever. And whilst the brakes are applied, you can torque these up. There's a specific sequence, and it's 2 Newton meters to start with, and then after that it is, if I can find it, 2 Newton meters, and then 45 Newton meters plus or minus 5%. Now it could be that those 2 Newton meters are what I class as finger tight, and then I pump the suspension, but you might want to try 2 Newton meters, then pump the suspension, and then do it up to the correct tension. And yeah, that was it really. Just making sure all the pipe lines are in the correct place. On the other side, the ABS sensor wire actually goes underneath the bleed nipple rubber, so you need to lift off the bleed nipple cap, put it underneath this ABS wiring and put it back onto the nipple, and you're pretty much done. So that's it. New tyres, balanced. Now, unfortunately it is chucking it down with rain, and I don't fancy taking brand new tyres out to scrub them in the wet, so I'm hoping that'll either clear later on or early tomorrow morning. I'm supposed to be doing some training on the bike tomorrow, but yeah, I guess that's going to be weather dependent. I meant to say on the rear wheel, obviously you've got to mount the silencer. I had soaked this nut and bolt in the XCF50 for a couple of days, and that has killed the corrosion stone dead, stopped it in its tracks. The bolt now looks quite presentable. So yeah, I also noticed when I was doing up this exhaust clamp that now is getting to a certain tightness and then just clicking and slipping a thread. So I think there's probably enough on the back to get another nut on there, but it's supposed to be, it's not supposed to be a tight fit because the whole exhaust moves around a little bit on that. So yeah, there we are. That's front and rear wheels changed. Hopefully get out as soon as possible. Anyway, hope that was interesting if nothing else, and I'll catch you later.